one. Hangout on air is live. All right, Jay, welcome, brother. Great to see you.
Hey, it's good to see you too, Jamie.
All right. So now that we've all seen the 5-minute, or it's a little bit less than 5 minutes, the Hungerless Games video, and thank you for watching that. That's a prerequisite to what you're about to see. That video then begets the question, well, what are the solutions? If these are games, if this is the Hungerless Games, who are the contestants? The contestants are precisely the solution, or solutions plural, working together, which will eradicate hunger from the face of the earth by the year 2020. That's the deadline that I'm establishing for myself personally. And the solution, one solution that we're putting forth, certainly not the only one, but one solution that will interact holistically with others, is the solution of, we call it solution 1, 2, 3. And it consists of 3 parts that in turn work together holistically and simultaneously. But the 3 parts are, part 1 is the eradication of prohibition, and specifically the eradication of the prohibition of cannabis and hemp. So step 1, the eradication of prohibition. Feel free to interject anytime, Jay, or just raise your hand or just jump in. Step 2 is the eradication of hunger. And as far as the Hungerless Games are concerned, we could probably just as well stop there. I don't know. We'd have to define more precisely the Hungerless Games. But there is a step 3, and step 3 is root down and simultaneously and holistically transform all of the rest of the world's most pressing and most daunting issues, including but not limited to climate change, war, natural resource devastation and depletion, including but not limited to ecosystems, rainforests, coral reefs, you name it, climate change, population explosion, war, human rights violations, the list goes on and on. It turns out that from our perspective, which we're delighted to share with you all through these videos and other resources throughout the website, and I invite you to explore freely and comment on any and all videos and other forms of content that you see. Your input is very welcome. Our goal is that we develop the requisite set of solutions into actual being, into actual reality, and that we actually transform all of these problems holistically and simultaneously. And the end state is, we simply refer to as utopia. And we talk about this in some of the material that you'll see in step 3. But anyway, back to the high level. So step 1 is the eradication of prohibition of cannabis. And therein, the way that we're going to accelerate the eradication of prohibition has been progressing throughout the world, led by Uruguay, by the United States, England, South Africa. There are a number of countries that are pioneering the eradication of prohibition. Spain, Holland, very notably. Others are really lagging behind, such as Japan. And we'll hear more about that from our brothers and sisters in Japan shortly. But back to the big picture, the way that we're going to accelerate the eradication of prohibition is by building a family of brands. You could think of the family collectively as sort of like the Newman zone of cannabis and hemp, but really it's a bunch of different brands, very different brands, covering the different categories within the vast field of cannabis and hemp. And but similar to Newman's Own, each of these brands will contribute 100% of their profits to the eradication of hunger. And that it turns out, will create an extremely powerful dialectic between the eradication of prohibition and the eradication of hunger. A super symbiotic relationship, sets up where the needs of one drive the needs and the way to achieve the other. And so, this is of course going to be very, very controversial on a number of fronts. But ultimately, what it's going to result in is a sort of bifurcation in the topic between those who say, yes, we can eradicate hunger and let's do it, and those who say, no, we can't or we shouldn't eradicate hunger, some combination or variation of the two. And so let's not do anything about it, or let's not do anything other than the status quo, or whatever the position might be that's outside the one of let's eradicate hunger. We can, so let's do it, and let's do it quickly. And if we need to if we need to take these two issues of prohibition and hunger and marry the two and make them mutually annihilate, let's do it. Why the heck not? Right? So,
yeah. So then, Jamie, I guess we could say something about, what is it that's gonna have people want to participate in this? I know you want to. I know that what we're up for is shifting the economies from the economy of hoarding to the economy of sharing and inclusion. So how are the companies going to get inspired to become certified compassionate?
Yeah. We'll get into those details in the introduction to part one. Right now, I just wanted this to be a high-level overview, but it's a great question, so I'll note that. So the motivation of companies, and then, but just to wrap up from the high level, so this will then spawn a whole category of solutions, and there will be all kinds of motivations for people to get involved in the conversation about how do we eradicate hunger, with or without cannabis. And but of all those solutions, I posit that per the 22 immutable laws of marketing, which I've referenced many times, that the solution 1, 2, 3, of which this is an overview, will become the number one in the category, simply because it's the first big one to be proposed that will become very controversial and very talked about around the world. And it'll come to be known as perhaps the marijuana hunger solution or something. It's just like, whoa, there's just so much possibility for conversation around that core. But then perhaps even bigger news is the step 3 of the solution, which won't be that much talked about at first, because at first, there's plenty to talk about just focusing on hunger and ending prohibition. But step 3 is about holistically and simultaneously transforming all of the world's issues. And as we'll see when we talk about the step 3, the introduction to step 3 of solution 1, 2, 3, we will build off the strength of this dynamo of steps 1 and 2, the dialectic between hunger and prohibition, to really catapult us on to major success in a much bigger game of holistically and simultaneously transforming all the world's issues. So
yeah. So essentially, what I'm kind of hearing in that is that is that this will become a model for being able to create the same kinds of solutions for those problems that everybody thinks are completely intractable and unsolvable.
Absolutely. Very well said, Jay. Exactly.
All right.
Yep. Anything else? Any other comments, questions, perspectives on all this? I mean, it's very powerful stuff and very controversial.
It's a big idea for sure, and I think it's one that is actually what's neat about it is knowing what I know of it already, that it is something that in fact could work. So that's the part that is, most people really believe there is no solution to many of these problems, and so to take on hunger is a great beginning. Wonderful.
Thank you. Awesome, Jade. All right, let's wrap this up, and then we'll see you on the next video, which will be the summary or the overview for step 1 of solution 1, 2, 3. So we'll see you there. Thank you.